Welcome to Project Insight's Power Tutorial Series. Today we're tackling a challenge that every project leader faces, building reports that provide the insight your teams need without spending hours gathering the data to create them. In today's 15-minute Power Tutorial, Steve and I will show you how to connect project data to organize and answer questions that matter most to your organization, from project status to resource utilization to financial performance. We'll demonstrate how Project Insight helps you connect data across projects, programs, and portfolios, resources, budgets, risks, and more to make meaningful reports for your project teams, PMOs, executives, and other stakeholders. A few housekeeping items. Everybody will be on mute. If you've got any questions, feel free to use the chat as we go. This recording will be accessible on this link after this is complete. Steve, we have a tremendous amount to get through. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, cool. So we are here on a project within a project. We're on the project level, we're on the task list. We wanted to illustrate first and foremost the fact that reporting can happen even at this level, right? We're going to go from project to overarching portfolio to other pieces within the tool. So we're going to start at the level that a project manager might start with. And here in their task list, they can insert additional columns to bring in pieces that then become very much the equivalent of reportable data here. So in this particular instance, what I just brought in was my actual hours. I can then move these parts around here and move it next to my work hours, which is my planned value there, and see what these numbers look like next to one another. So in this way, as I actually am planning, I can also be reporting on how we're performing. This applies to the idea that I can save these different layouts. So I can come in here and have that plan versus actual hours one where I'm even showing the, plus or minus on where we ended up. That can be financial pieces as well. So each of these hours have a labor cost associated with them. Each of these tasks may have non-labor costs all the same. I can show what my planned values, what my actuals are, and then how we performed. So all of that does become accessible, directly out of the views within Project Insight, right, Steve? That applies to the Gantt all the same. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the views is a kind of a fundamental part of reporting. Most of our customers, you all in the chat, know about this, but some of the new people probably don't. So it's important to set up your views, figure out what works best for your organization. You can obviously set your own personal views, or you can set views for everybody. So that's really important to do, and it's nice and easy to do. Let's move on to the next thing.
That's right. Those apply to Gantt. Those apply to risks, all of RAID logs as a whole.
Yeah.
The other places on the project level that I can easily report, is really from what we call the project overview page. This provides me a one-stop shop of everything that's happening within my current project. This is where I can see everything from all of my risks to any, custom pieces we're tracking, like lessons learned, all of the activity. This is, a project on a page piece. We can cut down the information that's shown on one of these, and that's what the status report is meant to represent. It's kind of I choose what pieces of that pie I want to show. I can look at things like project health, either manual or automatic, or show all of the pieces here. These are both great because I can export them readily into a PDF format. If Steve, who I report to, wants to, have an update on my projects, here you go, it's right there. The other way in which I can report on this is I can export any of the data within Project Insight into a PDF or Word document for myself, like this one here, where I'm pulling the information out of the tool and pushing it into a Word doc, a PDF, and so on. So these are ways in which I can report without actually going into this idea of what is a report within Project Insight, which is where we're headed next.
Yeah, and the overview real quick is for the project managers to be able to get a snapshot of everything, and then that other status report is more for the executives.
That's right. Yeah, so Steve doesn't have to ping me or ask me, right, Steve? You can just go right to it.
Yep, and those are just the out of the box reports. Almost all of our clients, especially the enterprise clients, end up having specialized status reports or specialized overviews. So those are just what you could do out of the box without any programming or any kind of development of report building at all.
That's right. And if I need any specific report to my project, what I've done here is I've gone to my projects reports home. This is going to look really similar to what we're going to see on the reports home, where I can look at my portfolio holistically. In this particular instance, everything I look at is going to be through the lens of my particular project. So if Steve says something to me like, "Hey Matthew, I need to know how many hours have been entered on your project," while I could have seen that on the task list in the format we were just doing, I can come in here and say, "Hey, generate a report off of the time that's been entered." I can change the dates, where I can say, it's going to be these specific dates. I can use rolling dates, and which is what I'm going to use right now, where I'm going to say, show me the last 15 months worth. And then I'm going to just quickly run this report, and it's going to show me all the time that's been entered against my project, where I can then happily tell Steve, hey, it's been 340 hours. If Steve then turns around and says, okay, great, well, how does that compare to what you had actually planned to do? That's again where I can actually find that from my task list, right? I can look at my plan versus actual. But maybe he wants to know how I'm performing over time. I can then go back to my reports home. I'm going to pull in the same time period that we were just looking at here. And this filter allows me to control things like the window of time that I'm looking at, subsets of reports or tasks or other pieces. In this particular instance, Steve wants to know what my actual hours are and what we had planned, what my work plan was. If I want to show the differential, I can do so. I'm going to change and show this by month. And I'm going to rerun this report, and now I'm going to have that broken down with my planned and actual values by month for the 15-month period. So I can tell Steve, hey, we did those 340. We had planned 629, and this is how that breaks down.
Yeah, and the project allocation report is designed for financial and hours, and then the resource allocation is designed for people and capacity. So
Yep.
just if you confused by that, remember the project allocation is under the budget, and that's time phased budgetary information and time, and then the resource allocation is capacity, and
I
both
think
do
that's
almost the same thing.
And you can actually see both on each data points, but I think that's a good call out, that here I'm
Yeah,
seeing things like tasks, projects, phases,
yeah.
where we're going to go next on resource allocation will show me people, right?
Hmm.
If Steve then says, hey, well, how much are you going to spend the rest of the year as far as that's concerned? I can come in here and say, you know what, I need specific dates. I'm going to use today's date. I'm going to go through the end of the year. I'm going to then break this down. I'm going to change the way that I have this group, so that way maybe I can understand by each resource type that I have planned out. And then now I don't actually need to see what actually is going to happen. I want to see what my planned value is and how many hours that equates to. I can rerun this same data point, and now I can see that, hey, my developers are going to cost me this much through the end of the year for a project total of 45,000.
Yeah, and what's happening is all your project schedules that you keep, as long as you keep your project schedule up to date, this just comes out automatically for you. It's amortizing and finding out exactly how much dollars will be in each month,
That's
basically.
right. Yep. And the other wonderful thing about all of our reporting, and this applies to the level of project that we are here or where we're going to go to the higher levels, is that if I want to chart this data, it's still the same filter function. I can just simply come in here and say, you know what, I would like to create a chart of this data. I want it to be an area chart. In my particular case, I want it to be planned value cumulative. I can then choose whether or not I want to see the table below this chart, which I do in this particular case. And I'm going to rerun this, and then I'm going to actually see how those dollars add up over time through the rest of the year, because I know Steve likes to see these visually. I can now save this and I can share this with Steve so Steve can see this. This is powerful though, because if your organization uses standardized reporting that each PM needs to deliver, they can see it in the standardized format across the board, and then we'll show in a moment how this rolls up into the portfolio holistically, right?
Yeah, and when he saves this, because this is a project level report, the save report will be available in all the projects. You just click the button.
That's right. Yep. And then the last one to show just is the last piece that Steve had mentioned just a moment ago, which is that of the resource allocation, right? So it is a little bit separate. This is where I'm looking at the actual individuals. When Steve says, hey, who's on your project through the next 10 weeks, I can just simply come in here and run this report and say, hey, it looks like I'm going to have these people associated with my project. Jennifer is going to struggle a little bit because, oh my gosh, we have her overburdened with all of these other project pieces. And we can then, look for an alternate resource if we need to in that particular case. All of this functionality that we have on the project level then becomes functional and reportable on the portfolio level via the reports menu as a whole. Right, Steve? So,
yes,
each of these pieces, whether it be the resources or whether it be the timesheets or otherwise, I can report on individually. As we enable different add-ons, I will have the ability to report on those pieces. So if you don't see something that is here, that's because maybe the add-on has not yet been enabled. What the reports home does, though, is this allows me to come in here and create reports, either see what's been shared, see what I've already created, or ad hoc create a report where I can say, hey, I want to look at all of the projects in flight on a cross-project Gantt chart. I'm going to run this report and then be able to holistically see where all of my projects that I have in this system are and how they're flowing over time here, right? This is the same functionality that we had on the other list views, where I can have the columns in that I want to see, which gives me a lot of flexibility in how we're managing these.
Yeah, and you can now edit this particular report as well in line. Most of these reports you can edit right in line. This is for all those customers in there. This used to not be editable, but it is now.
That's right. You can edit this, start and end date. You can move those different pieces around. You can do that really in any of the reports.
Yep.
Similar to what we were seeing here, I can save this and include this in my reports menu, and that'll give me the ability to come in here and see the different data points that we have. So in this way, I can look at all of those projects without the Gantt chart here. The nice thing about the layouts is you can have these predefined pieces, so you can have your exec layouts, which may look a little bit different than what your PM looks like. You can filter these to where I'm only looking at the ones that are applicable to me or that I'm in charge of. But the win here is everybody has visibility into what's happening from that project level all the way, from the tasks in the project all the way up to the project level. The other part to note here is in the event that you aren't tracking tasks, you aren't tracking risks, you don't need to. I can track just the project data points and move that along through phases or who's in charge of all of that within Project Insight all the same as well. So these reports that we're looking at here, can be really high level, like this particular, exec report here where I'm looking at everything. These can be really granular where I'm looking at a task report where I'm seeing what I'm assigned to that's current and overdue. Again, that's happening with the filter here, right? So I can come in and say, hey, I want to see things that only are applicable to me, or I want to see everything that's current and overdue. That allows me to control what that looks like. Those same allocation reports that we were looking at, I can control all of those broadly speaking globally. So now I'm not just looking at what's happening within that one project. I'm looking at all of my resources across the board, where I have the same flexibility in order to come in here and change, the scale or the time or anything else out via filter. Or equally applicable to the portfolio allocation, as Steve is mentioning. In this particular case, we have it rolled up by the portfolio, the program, and then the projects. So you can see the amount that we're going to spend, the same piece that we were looking at in our project, but now how that applies to the other projects that that's a part of. And I know we're getting real tight on time. All of these particular reports, Steve, right, can be turned into a dashboard, which
Yep.
allows me just to have one screenshot, one screen of the reporting that I want to see. In this instance, it's leadership focused, where I've got lots of spend and resource and pieces, but it can be, as granular about anything else that you care for. So if you've got any questions on any of these pieces and you are a customer of ours, reach out to your assigned account representative. We also have a wonderful documentation here, which will walk you through a lot of these different components and how you can build these. If you are not yet using Project Insight, please reach out via sales@projectinsight.com. Love to put this to work for your organization. Steve, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. That was a lot in a little bit of time. But
Oh yeah, make sure you
definitely,
watch the replay, right?
we
So
and we are enhancing all of this documentation. So any customers, you should be checking the knowledge base for improvements there. Every week, we're making more and more progress to overhauling everything in there.
that's right. Thanks all.
Thanks.